What is going on, everyone? This is Zach from clutchcrewsports here for a special NBA game review. This is going to be a review of Game 4 of the Phoenix Suns against the Dallas Mavericks. I just finished watching this game. I'm going to be posting this video up as soon as possible. So if you didn't catch the game, you can listen to this, and I'll kind of recap what all happened in the game. This is the first time I've done this. Normally, I host a podcast every week called Clutch Crew Sports. The links to find that podcast are in the description below. We also post all of our podcasts on YouTube as well. So if you could subscribe to YouTube, you can find more of these game reviews as well as our podcast that I do with my cousins, talking about, like I said, NFL and NBA stuff. So, this was an interesting game here. I'll just go ahead and say the Mavericks, won 111 to 101. They tied the series at 2 apiece. Game 5 will be at Phoenix, so this is officially now a series. Phoenix started 2-0 in this best of 7 series. The Mavericks, they won both their home games, and they've tied it up now. And this is really the game that I've watched the most of in this series. Typically in the playoffs, I've been watching a lot more of the Eastern Conference games, but I wanted to watch this game and do a review for you guys, so I will go ahead and get that started. I'm going to do this kind of quarter by quarter and then talk about the second half a little bit more as a whole because I didn't catch as much of the second half. But the first quarter starts, and I will say in this game especially, the early on, it was just the fouls and the referee action. The refs, especially early on, I'll give them credit towards later in the game. They made some good calls, but early on they were missing calls that led to technical fouls, actually. Like Luka, I think it was Jay Crowder, had a hard foul on Luka. He didn't like it because they didn't call the foul on Crowder. And then they call a technical on Luka, and then just a few plays later, they call a technical on Chris Paul. And then Chris Paul, foul trouble was a problem for him all night. He ended up fouling out pretty early into the second half. He had 5 fouls 2 minutes into the third quarter. But so the refs were bad. Luka was playing emotional to start. I mean, after that, the Suns were being physical on him for sure, and then he was caused him to have some frustration fouls. So he had some fouls pretty early on. Booker was on fire. If there's one positive thing to say about the Suns, Booker's not the problem. He was shooting the three pretty well. The Mavericks were shooting the three well also. As a team, later on, you'd see that they really shot the three well, but first quarter, it seems like, okay, this is going to be a tight, close game. Towards the end of the quarter, the Mavericks hit a string of threes, and they end up with a 37-25 lead. So the Suns' great defense that the announcers were praising so much of, they just, Dallas was getting quality three-point shots, and it showed, and they were hitting them. The fans were definitely loud for Dallas. They had that home court advantage, and it helped them a lot in the first quarter. Phoenix, they were a little bit sloppy with turnovers and fouls. And so you're thinking, okay, Dallas has a real shot to win this. Then it gets to the second quarter. Bertans for Dallas, man. He was, for like a 5-minute stretch, you would have thought he was Steph Curry. He made 4 for 4 from 3. The announcer said he's, quote, hotter than fish grease. I thought that was funny. Because, these announcers, they always try and hype up everything, and since he went 4 for 4 from 3, they said hotter than fish grease. But it's not looking good for the Suns. Turnovers and offensive fouls. Crowder, it looked like he might have gotten hurt at the end of the first quarter there, but he comes back in, finally starts making some three-pointers, because he was a liability in that first quarter. He was missing open threes, turnovers, fouls, just not having a good game. Finally starts making some threes. Mavericks at one point 11 of 16 from 3, and most of them were good looks. Refs called another 3-second violation on the Suns. It's funny, you hardly ever see 3-second calls, but there were 3-second calls in this game. And so it's looking like a blowout here. It looks like Dallas is easily going to win this. But you never know in the NBA. Suns, they get some easy points. Dallas, just their defense sometimes has lapses. Ayton down the paint was able to get some easy points. They cut it to single digits. Luka was sitting for most of the first quarter with the fouls and his normal rest anyways. Another technical on Powell this time for the Mavericks. So 3 technicals in the first half. This is a chippy game, a chippy series. They talked about that. This game gets chippier as the game gets played, to the fourth quarter, and then also as a series. This is maybe not as chippy as the Memphis Golden State series, but definitely up there in the playoffs as a chippy series. CP3 ended up getting his 3rd foul in this quarter, and so it's not looking good for him. He's struggling too offensively, just missing some shots, not having a good time. Luka has a few awkward falls going up for rebounds. It's like, oh God, he's, that's the thing about Luka is it doesn't seem like he's in great shape. And so when he falls down, it's like, it looks really painful. It looks like he really might be injuring himself. He had a few of those, but he ended up being okay. I think for the Mavericks fans, there were some scares with that. Dallas at one point here had 29 bench points. So they're getting contributions from all over the place. Like I said, Bertans was hot at one point. It wasn't just the Luka show. Luka was doing a good job passing the ball, getting people like Dorian Finney-Smith a lot of easy points. Crowder has a physical foul on Luka. This is a physical game for sure. A lot of, while I don't agree with some of these technicals, they're probably deserving so just based on how physical these teams played. And then a critical mistake here. CP3 fouled going up for an offensive rebound. He fouls Doncic like under a second left and picks up 4 fouls. And actually the first time he's ever had 4 fouls and a half his whole career, regular season and playoffs. So uncharacteristic of him to get 4 fouls. The Suns out of game 2 were complaining to the refs a lot. It looked early on like the Mavericks were getting shorted by the refs, but then the Suns, stuff goes for the home team's side a lot. So at halftime, it's 68-56, a 12-point lead for the Mavericks. Uncharacteristic for the Suns' defense to be giving up this many points and a half. I think it was the most they'd given up in the playoffs in the first half. So looking good for the Mavericks, and it continues. I mean, the third quarter was like a carry on over the second quarter. The Suns, I'll give them credit. They came out with energy at first. They cut it to single digits. And it's like, okay, maybe now you're thinking the Suns are the better team. They're finally, gonna go on a bit of a run here. CP3 started the third quarter, which I thought was interesting. I don't comment below if you agreed with that move or not, but he basically, what happened with his 5th foul is he tried, and by the way, the first foul on him was definitely a bad call, but it was kind of like a makeup for the bad call on Luka at the time, we all thought, but it ended up being more important than the Luka foul. But his 5th foul was, this new rule that the NBA is doing where it's being less favorable for the offensive player to just kind of like dribble into fouls, crouch down and then just stop and then try and force the contact. You see it on shooting a lot, pre this season, like last year or the years before, you would see all these 3-point shooters just like jack up threes that they knew had no chance of going in just to force contact, the James Harden special. This was kind of like that, just dribbling wise. He just kind of stops and runs into him. So at first I thought, because of what normally happens, I thought it'd be, a foul on Brunson. But it ended up being, the officials called it correctly. The Suns challenged it, and it stands. So it's CP3's 5th foul. But the lead went down to 5 points for the Mavericks. But the Mavericks, give them credit, they never fully allowed the Suns to get a lead in this game. And so, guys like Brunson stepped up big in the third quarter. Dorian Finney-Smith was big. They didn't allow CP3 to get anything, and then it's all on Devin Booker essentially for their offense, and that's where the Suns' problem comes in. Booker is fine, but if he doesn't have that superstar helping him like CP3 is supposed to be doing. It's just not going to go. They're going to lose this series if CP3 continues to play that way. But Dallas leaves the third quarter with an 87-78 lead. So, just an 11-point lead here going into the fourth. It's possible still for the Suns, but unlikely considering how the game had been going. CP3 eventually fouls out with just 5 points, and he had a bad game 3, and they were saying before the game how he always follows up his bad games with spectacular games. It didn't happen here. We'll see if they can get something out of him at game 5 at home. But yeah, the fourth quarter, much of the same. The Mavericks, they have like a 10-point lead with 5 minutes left here and then continue on to win the game. Just the big standouts were the 3-point shooting for the Mavericks, 45% from 3. They were 20 of 44, so they were definitely shooting a lot more threes than Phoenix was. Like I said, Phoenix was taking advantage of the defense, getting some easy points down the paint with guys like Ayton and McGee, but they just did not play a good defensive game. There was too many switches. I think they were a little bit too worried about Luka driving in because Luka was doing a great job driving in and getting 2 points that they start to double team him. He kicks it out to the shooters, and then the shooters make their shots, and that's what essentially happened for the Mavericks here. I will say, that Phoenix did get better as the game went on, but still not good for the Suns. I don't personally have a rooting interest in this game. It's not like I'm a Mavericks fan or a Suns fan that's mad, so I'm just watching this as a neutral observer. I'm a Magic and Trailblazers fan, if you've never listened to the podcast before. So those are my teams, but the Mavericks take this game. They tie the series up. Let me know in the comments what you think happens for the rest of this series. Who do you think will win it? Now it's a best of 3. And comment below also the other NBA series going on. Who do you think wins? Boston in Milwaukee, Miami and the 76ers, and the Grizzlies Warriors. Let me know in the comments, and let me know how you enjoyed this review also. I'll be hoping to put another one of these out next week and moving on with the playoffs going forward. So thank you all for listening and watching, and remember, be clutch.